what we'll do, we'll start. We've got some introductions and stuff like that too anyway, and I'm sure there'll be people that will be sort of stragglers that will come in between now and 6 o'clock. They won't miss out too much anyway, so we'll start anyway. So welcome. This is our second meetup. Who came to the first one? Hey, second meetup is good. Yeah. So my name's Darren Wilshurst. It's a bit of a picture, isn't it? Yeah, I'll do something like that. I haven't been well recently, so if I collapse on the floor, don't worry. Just carry on. Seriously, Nick will pick up and Andy will pick up as well. So
pick up you?
Yeah, no. Just leave it there. I've got my pain relief and killers with me, so that I'll be fine anyway. So, but yeah, it should be okay. So I did this last time, but I won't do it again because it's one of my little pet hates, or not pet hates, but things that I think we should understand a little bit more, and it also talks about why we are doing this. So most people know the Agile Manifesto, yeah? So, individuals and interactions over processes and tools, yeah? Working software over
comprehensive documentation.
Thank you. Customer collaboration over fantastic. Responding to change over exactly. So everyone knows that. That's good. Yeah, it's good. Does anybody we know what the two lines that are missing at the top there are? Anyone? Can you remember what the two lines are at the top?
Once we value stuff from the left to
No, that's people miss a bit on the bottom. So people think, oh yeah, because they look at the Agile Manifesto and they go, yeah, we'll do Agile, we don't do documentation because the Agile Manifesto says that. It doesn't actually. It says, whilst there's value on the right, the value on the left more. So in an Agile world, we'll still do documentation, we'll still do work with suppliers, and we'll still have plans, but people never know what the two lines at the top are.
I know you swap one of the words out for business value.
Yeah, so getting there, Matt. So we're almost getting to the point now where we're sitting there. So we're uncovering better ways of delivering software by doing it and helping others do it as well. This was written back in 2001. I think it could do some updating. So I'd rather say we are covering better ways of creating business value. I think it's more than just developing software these days. We're creating business value by doing and helping others. So the bit I like here, I think it's quite important, people miss this. It doesn't say we have uncovered, it says we're uncovering. This is about continuous learning, and this is why we're here today, is to learn more as well. But the next two things I think are important as well, by doing it and helping others. So for me, this is why we set up this meetup, is by helping others learn about uncovering better ways of creating business value. Now, tonight is interesting because the first meetup we did back in July was very much a presentation. But tonight is very much about doing it. So what I want to make sure in terms of the meetups that we have is we're going to try and share our learning and as well, but we're going to do it as well. So tonight we're going to look at the PI planning, which is probably the seminal event in SAFe as well. Next month I'm going to do it on prioritisation. So how do we prioritise our work? Using cost of delay. Again, it sounds a bit complicated and it can be a bit daunting, but there's SAFe gives lots of guidance how we can do that using cost of delay. So we'll look at that in October. Then we'll go back to a bit of learning. So James is coming over. He's going to talk about the TomTom story. So they started their journey back probably about 3 years ago, and I went to his presentation 2 years ago, and he's going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, in terms of what he learned and where they are now, having started their journey about 3 years ago. Now, I'm hoping that James is going to bring a TomTom with him that he will offer as some sort of prize as well. Yeah, so I think he's up for that as well. We haven't quite discussed the terms and conditions of the prize, but we're hoping that will be there as well. So again, it'd be good to hear from TomTom. They're working at scale, and they had some real horror stories back 3 years ago. Be interesting to understand where they've got to as well. Then we're going to do sort of a Christmassy event in December. So rather than doing a lean coffee, I thought it was quite funny, we're going to do a lean mulled wine. Yeah. So we're going to find we might do it in an office, we might even go to a pub like that, but we're going to do it as a lean coffee event where we'll create a bit of a Kanban board, we'll create some ideas, and then we can prioritise those ideas, and then we can discuss those in the time we've got available as well. And again, that's a great idea for us, not just for me and Nick or Andy to share our learnings, but all of us to share our learnings, because I guess a lot of you some of you might be working in a safe way or an agile way, some maybe not as well. So again, it's a chance for us to reshare, but in a more convivial, informal format as well. The only thing that I want to get sorted for next year is Dean Levenwell, who's the creator of the Safe Framework. He's over in the UK in London in March. So I'm hoping that I'm going to collar Dean to come and do a bit of presentation here, or something that we know. Actually, what would be really good to understand is, if we get Dean here, what do we want? What do we want from Dean? And this is the creator of the framework, the one that's written the seminal book, that's Agile Software Requirements, back in 2001. Now, if we want him here, what do we want him to do? Rather than me trying to preempt what you want, tell me what you want. So maybe nearer the time, I might do a bit of a poll, and he'll be absolutely amenable to whatever what you want to do as well. Okay. So just big thanks to Radtac. They obviously, these friends don't come for free, so we have to pay for the room. So Radtac paid for the room. We've got some drinks. We've got some pizza coming as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over to Nick in a bit. Nick will do a bit of an introduction. But as we start the planning process, I'll have the pizzas arrive so we can eat and plan at the same time. Yeah, like that. Yeah, or you can eat and plan. I'm just going to eat. Yeah, or claps on the floor or whatever. So do that as well. So yeah, big thank you to Nick. We need to update your picture as well, don't we, really? So I've had the privilege of working with Nick a number of times over the last couple of years as well. And this is a great simulation that Nick runs as well. So we will be helping him out, and Andy as well. So without further, I'm going to issue Nick, but there's his Twitter handle, and if you are into Twittering, there's the Wi-Fi here as well. So if you want to create some noise around London Safe, that would be fantastic as well. Good. Any questions? I don't know why I thought, actually. I feel like I'm back in the... Any questions? Anything else you need to know? No fire alarms expected? No. Good. Right.
Are you ordering things then?
Yeah, I'm going to order it. Yeah, I might do that now, actually.
Survival, first order of business. Very,
Yeah.
very important. So Daz now gets my award. My full name is Nick Ebenezer McKenna. For having the audacity to mention bloody Christmas. It's September. That's the first person who's mentioned Christmas to me. Bar bumble. So yes, I'm Nick McKenna. I'm from Yorkshire. Anybody else from Yorkshire?
Hello.
Yay! Great. Hi lad, how is thee? You thought I brought at the foot of our stairs. That's all. Fantastic. Right. So do you know how to tell when you've met somebody from Yorkshire? It's very important. They haven't told you they're from Yorkshire in the first 30 seconds of talking to them, they're not from Yorkshire. That's how you know when you're talking to Yorkshire. So anybody ever been to Yorkshire? Anybody been north of Watford Gap? No? Been outside the M25? Yeah? Okay, right. Wow. Yeah, it's incredible. There'd be dragons here. That's what it says on the map across Yorkshire. Fantastic. So you're all based in London, around here? Yeah? And who's doing Agile? Something Agile-ish. Good, very brave. Some of you being very British and not admitting to it. Thank you for that. That's good. And who's doing something safe-related? Oh, you poor souls. Never mind. All right. Good. And how's that working out for you? Going all right? Yeah. Perfect body language.
I haven't got the tools to measure it.
I haven't got this brilliant good answer. You could be a politician. You could be a consultant, in fact. Wow.
Don't insult me already.
No. And how are you getting on with Safe back there? Who else was doing Safe? Somebody back there? We getting on all right?
Early stages.
Early stages. Fantastic. Great. Okay. So who knows about Safe? Is anybody? Oh, that's a good question. Who doesn't know much about Safe? Okay. Right. Okay, so if you want to know about Safe, there's a 2-day course, Leading Safe, and that's kind of the introductory one. We've got about 10 minutes though, so we'll try and do it in 10 minutes. How about that? Oh, hello, welcome. You hear the Safe thing? It's not some ancient right away or anything, is it? Like driving your sheep across Tower Bridge or whatever it is. What was I talking about? Who was listening? Safe. Oh, good. That's what we're talking about. Brilliant. Good. Excellent. Safe. Scaled Agile Framework. Let's think about Agile for a minute. Let's give this a bit of context. So who's an Agile fan? I'm an Agile fan. Yeah, there's a right and wrong answer to that question, and the peer pressure there. Who's an Agile fan? So Agile is like the latest cool, new, funky way of doing things, isn't it? Right and wrong answer to that question as well. When did Agile begin? When do we think?
1980s.
Well, a bit before then. Bit before, keep going.
60s.
No, keep going. Give you a clue, you're in the wrong century at the minute. You're in the wrong millennium.
Is it zero?
Full price?
Yes, quite a long time before. So, do you remember Daz just brought up earlier on the screen the Agile Manifesto? What's point 4 of the Agile Manifesto? Responding to change. So, you know Sun Tzu, The Art of War? That was written in 2,500 BC, there or thereabouts. And in The Art of War, Sun Tzu says, according as circumstances are favourable, one should modify one's plans. We value responding to change over following a plan. That might be 500 BC actually, 2,500 years ago. If I could do maths, this would be a lot better, wouldn't it? In the software industry, we are a little slow to catch up. So the rest of the world's been doing Agile for literally thousands of years. All warfare is an exercise in Agile, with the possible exception of the First World War. That was an exercise in economy of scale and stupidity. But most warfare is an exercise in agility. So let's think about this in a different way as well. If Agile is a really, really old idea, why is it really only in the last 15 or 20 years that it's been widely adopted? Been around for thousands of years. There is not one new idea in Agile, not one. Every single, you know, relative estimating. You know, who invented relative estimating? This is one to Google later on. Charles Darwin's cousin invented relative estimating, and his name escapes me at the minute. It'll come back to me. So what he discovered was that he was at a country fair, and they have one of those classic country fair games. There's a whole load of farmers there, and there's a bull. And if you can guess the weight of the bull, you get to keep the bull. Now, what Darwin's cousin discovered was that nobody guessed the weight of the bull correctly. Even though these were experienced farmers who worked with bulls all day long, they didn't guess the weight of the bull correctly. The fascinating thing was, if you took an average of everybody's estimates for the weight of the bull, you would be within less than 1% accuracy of the actual weight of the bull. So Darwin's cousin invented relative estimating about 130 years ago, I think, there or thereabouts. So no new ideas in Agile. So why is it popular now? Why weren't we doing Agile in 1970?
Control.
So
Control.
control, tell me about that. That sounds like an interesting idea. I like that.
You assume complex systems require great control, and that's
Right.
probably why people have difficulty getting to it.
Fundamentally, that's about right. So again, if we go back to about the time of Darwin's cousin, there or thereabouts, there's a guy called Taylor, and most of the management that went on in the 20th century was scientific management. It's an interesting use of the word science, not as I understand it. I understand science to be evidence-based, which is not how it works, but okay. And what he discovered was that if you employed somebody really clever, they could work out the best possible way of doing something, like organising a factory. So you just need one clever person. Amazingly, that clever person, that was him, Frederick Taylor. And then you employ a load of idiots. Employ a load of idiots because idiots are really, really cheap, and it turns out the world's full of them as well. And you employ them to do exactly what you say. Don't let them think for themselves, they're idiots. And this was entirely Frederick Taylor's attitude. He was a thoroughly unpleasant person. And he really drove management through the 20th century, and his fundamental idea was economy of scale. Do something on a large scale en masse, build a lukewarm product and sell it to millions of people, and that's how you make a lot of money. Now, was he right or was he wrong?
Did he make lots of money?
Yes.
He was right.
Yeah. He is absolutely, for the 20th century, he was 100, and the 19th century, he was 100% correct. economy of scale turns out in the 20th century to be the most powerful economic force for growth. So why is Agile, which flies in the face of economy of scale and those ideas, why is it popular now? Say that again? Change of demand. Yeah. How's that? What kind of change of demand? It's what
People want more.
they do
now.
Yeah. Who has customers? They're a pain in the arse, aren't they? So imagine it's 1949. You have to imagine this. None of us look old enough. 1949, and you go into your local grocery store. You know Mr. Arkwright from Open All Hours? 1949, you go into his grocery store and you want to buy some food. What do you have in your hand? 1949.
Coupons.
Ration book, right? You have a ration book. How much of a discerning consumer are you if you walk into a shop with a ration book? You're not at all, are you? You are going to buy whatever that shopkeeper is good enough to sell you. So when you've been through a century that was just full of war, and you end up with literally starving masses of people all over the world, they are not discerning consumers. Their demand is very, very low. They just want to eat, and they don't really care what they're going to eat. I have no idea if this is true, and I daren't look it up, it's so good. Henry Ford made the original Model T Ford for 10 years without modifying it. Apparently that's true. I daren't look it up. And then he changed it. So he'd been selling this car for 10 years, quite happily. Sold loads of them. Why did he change it after 10 years?
Competition.
Yes. Specifically, General Motors launched their first car. And all of a sudden, he's gone from owning an entire market to having competition. So what's happened with competition in the 20th century? Yeah, it's massively increased. You know the word globalisation. The great thing about globalisation is you can go and do business anywhere in the world. Your customers can be anywhere in the world now. The downside to globalisation is your competitors are all over the world now as well. So whether it doesn't matter what it is, aeroplane manufacture pretty much used to be done in the UK and France and the States and not really anywhere else. Aeroplanes are made all over the world now. Components all over the world and shipped together and composed. So anyway, the reason I'm talking about this is to talk about the context of Agile and why Agile is a good idea now. And it's all about those things that we just talked about. The thing that drives companies now is innovation. It's not enough to be the biggest company. Now, let me read you something here. This is fascinating. It's an economic lesson. It's not from Stephen Denning, I forget the original author. There's a lot of churning and creative disruption, and it's probably safe to say that almost all of today's Fortune 500 companies will be replaced by new companies in new industries in the next 59 years, and for that we should be thankful. The constant turnover in the Fortune 500 is a positive sign of the dynamism and innovation that characterises a vibrant consumer-oriented market economy, and that dynamic turnover is speeding up in today's hyper-competitive global economy. Everybody still with me? The important bit about that is speeding up. The pace of change is not slowing, and it's not remaining the same. The pace of change is increasing. And this is the important bit. Stephen Denning pointed out a few years ago in Forbes that 50 years ago, the life expectancy of a firm in the Fortune 500 was around 75 years. Today it's less than 15 years and declining all the time. Wow. So the days where you could just have one good idea and then milk it for about 50 years, those days are gone. And barring a global war, they're probably not coming back. You see this in financial services, don't you? With the big lumbering banks making very, very marginal profits based on their assets, and then tiny little startup companies appearing from nowhere who are stealing the lunch away from these great big banks. So the pace of change is increasing. We've got globalisation to deal with. We've got much more demanding customers. Apple do 2 iPhones a year. 2 new models of the iPhone a year. Wow. That's churning out products pretty quick, isn't it? That's been very, very quick time to market. So these are all the reasons why Agile is really important. And in the last couple of years, it's become increasingly important that we can do Agile at scale. So in the good old days when we first started doing Agile, Agile pretty much was for small teams working on small projects in small companies. And your average Agile team, 6 or 7 people, and that's it. And indeed, a lot of the solutions to scaling problems are actually just to have fewer people involved and do less work. So that should probably be our primary solution for scaling up, is not to do it. Try and do less work instead. Work out what all the crap is that you don't need to do and don't do it. And just do the thing that is actually important and valuable. And that works to a certain extent. But then you get to the point where 7 people actually can't create your amazing product anymore. So I was talking to the Spotify guys a few months ago at a conference. You know Spotify, that little app on your phone, yeah? 800 people work on that in their IT function, in software development and maintaining servers. It's only a tiny little app that big, 800 people, wow. So they can't really fire 793 of those people, can they? And just employ 7 people and hope that somehow the work's going to get done. So sometimes you need to employ more people. So this is where SAFe comes in, I guess. So Scrum is great, isn't it? And Scrum sits at the heart of SAFe. Scrum sits pretty much at the heart of most of the scaled methods, actually, whether it's Nexus, Less, SAFe, or one of the many others. So Scrum's great with... Who's done Scrum with one team? Yep, it's easy, isn't it? Easy-ish. If only if it wasn't for those people involved, it'd be a lot easier, wouldn't it? It really would. Yeah. So Scrum's done Scrum with 2 teams. Yeah, it's still sort of okay, isn't it? Scrum with 3 teams, it all starts to get a bit wobbly at that point, doesn't it? Why does it all go wobbly at about 3 teams?
Cross dependencies.
Yeah, all dependency is great, so we're going to abolish the word dependency today. We will never utter that word after today. We don't have, I want you all to remember this, I'm a consultant, right, bear this in mind. We don't have dependencies on other teams, right? We have opportunities to collaborate with other teams. Mm-hmm. Yeah? Nice. That's how you build a career in consultancy. Yeah, dependencies on other teams. So the whole idea of Agile is you get, or Scrum in particular, is you get everybody on the team, you get all the skills that you need. But what about when you don't have all the skills that you need? Agile is about empowering that team to make decisions. So I've empowered this team to make decisions, and 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 that team to make decisions. And when you do that, amazingly, you all make bloody different decisions, don't you? So once you get to about 3 teams, 3 Scrum teams, what you find is all these empowered teams just scatter and start going in completely different directions. And the skill at that point is leadership. It's about aligning those teams and getting them all pointed in the same direction. And that's what SAFe is really, really good at. Good, right, I promised Darren I won't go wrap it on too much. Sorry. Good, that's me. Very good, let's move on. Move on from that, you all know that. You all know that. Good, sort of Right, just got to read this to you for legal reasons. So today we're going to do a simulation of program increment planning, which is PI planning. And this is the simulation we're going to do is actually extracted from the official Certified Lead in SAFe course. So in order to do these sessions, you have to get permission from SAI, who are the organisation who runs SAFe. So I've just got to read this out. Today's simulation is like Sesame Street, isn't it? Today's simulation is being brought to you by kind permission of Scaled Agile, who granted special permission to McKenna Consultants for using the simulation at community events. SAFe and Scaled Agile Framework are registered trademarks of Scaled Agile Inc. Special thanks to Scaled Agile Inc. for allowing us to use the simulation. You will now all swear blind in a court of law if I read that I did. Great. So, program increment planning. We've got to align all these different teams and get them all pointed in the same direction. And do we remember the bit in the Agile Manifesto about collaboration? What do we prefer? Customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Do you remember that bit? That's probably the most important bit of the Agile Manifesto, although I do say that when I talk about all of the items. I swear every single one of them is the most important. And it's actually I think it's one of the most misleadingly worded. So you read that and you think, oh, okay, so that's about my contract with my customer then. But the lawyers normally take care of that. Why is that in the Agile Manifesto? And it's not talking about that kind of contract, it's talking about management by contract. It's talking about saying, if I do this, then you will do this. So some of you will have worked on globally distributed projects where you'll have a team in France, and they'll have a specification on a bit of paper, and they'll work to that. And then you'll have a team in London, and they'll have a specification on a bit of paper. And if everybody sticks to the specification, those two components will fit together beautifully. It never works, does it? That's management by contract. So that's what it's talking about. What it's saying is, it's not enough just to write on a bit of paper and give people orders, those kind of things. We've got to work together and collaborate in order to achieve things. That's what today's exercise is all about. So the way that SAFe facilitates, or one of the many ways that SAFe facilitates collaboration, is through the use of program increment planning. So you all know what a sprint is? Yes? How long is a sprint? What's the length of time? 2 weeks. Who does 2 week sprints? Correct, you were right. Who does 3 week sprints? You're weird. Right? I don't get it. It's an odd number. There's nothing wrong with 3 week sprints. It just feels weird. I don't know why. Who does 4 week sprints? Excellent. That's a very long time. 1 week sprints? No. That's pretty representative. Most of the people I meet, the vast majority do 2 weeks. Some do 3 weeks. Do you do 3 weeks? Just your ceremony overhead at the start and end, or something like that? Is that
Integration overhead.
Yeah, integration overhead, right, yeah. Will it take you about a week to do integration or something like that? Yeah, that sounds about right. So, good. Talk to me or Darren afterwards about an integration team. That'd be an interesting idea. So that's the primary cadence. So the 2 weeks for the sprint. So what's a program increment? Who knows what a program increment is? Tell me what a program increment is.
It's a series of sprints around which you do your wider plan.
Excellent. There you go. What he said. Brilliant. So how many sprints in a program increment? 4, 5, 6. Yes, these are all about right. Somewhere between 3 and 6. There we go. So let's do the maths. If you do a 2 week sprint and you do 6 sprints, how many weeks is that? Excellent. Good basic maths. All done. 12 weeks. So what? This can't be coincidence, can it? What is 12 weeks nearly? It's nearly a quarter of a year, isn't it? And what do businesses plan? Quarters. Isn't that amazing? So yeah, 6 weeks, 6 sprints, 12 weeks. That's look like quite a sensible length for a program increment if you wanted to align it with the rest of the business planning going on in your business. Just a curiosity, really. I work with teams that do 3, 5, and 6 week program increments. I've not worked with anybody doing 3, 5, and 6 sprints program increments. I've not worked with anybody doing 4 sprints, but there's no reason for that. So 3 sprints in your program increment when things are changing very rapidly. So if realistically, if your event horizon is only about 6 weeks, there's no point planning 12 weeks into the future. It's a total waste of time. So you really want to plan to what a realistic event horizon is. So what we do to facilitate the collaboration in SAFe is at the beginning, just like sprint planning really, either at the end of your previous program increment or the start of your next program increment, we all get together in one big room for a couple of days. Let me say that again. We all get together. All of us. So if you've got 10 teams and 7 people in each team, that's 70 people in the room. And that's just the beginning. Because we also want our senior guys there, don't we? You know, all those people you want to keep out of the way the rest of the time. We need those people there. So we want our execs there, we want our product managers there, we want our architects there, we want all those people. Why do I want all those people in the room at the same time?
Common message.
A common message, yeah. It's about alignment, right? The primary benefit of doing program increment planning is alignment. We have a plan at the end of it. The plan is wrong, like every other plan we ever construct. And the further into the future you look, the more wrong that plan is. So the plan is a happy byproduct of what we do. The planning process is more important than the plan, but even more important than the planning process is the alignment, getting everybody focused. So we should start with what's important to us as an organisation in the next 6 sprints. So for example, your exec might kick off the session and say, well, just so you all know, we're moving into China in the next quarter. China's going to be our next really big market. So now imagine you're doing some work in the following 6 sprints, and you're going to do some translation work, and you can either translate your product into Arabic or Chinese. Which one are you going to pick? Chinese, right? So, because if we can develop that really great alignment, that common purpose, everybody gets to make decisions locally without having to refer those decisions through a large and cumbersome hierarchy, because you know what's important to your organisation, so you can make good local decisions. Everybody still with me? Yes. So, from a mechanical point of view, the main job at Program Increment Planning is we spend 2 days and we take features. So what's a feature? Anybody know? This is a very technical definition. It's a medium-sized thing, right? A user story is a small thing, feature is a medium-sized thing, and an epic is a big thing. It's a proper northern definition. So let me put it in these terms to you. User story should take you a couple of days. A feature, a couple of weeks. An epic could be months, could be years. Yeah. That might be different from terminology you've heard in the past. So, yeah. Oh, welcome to Agile. They're going to be starting in terminology. Wow. Who does planning poker? It's neither planning nor poker. Stop it at once. We make up weird terminology in Agile, don't we? Yes, so you might have heard of epics being referred to as what I would refer to as a feature app. So for today, user story, small thing, feature, medium thing, epic, big thing. So at PI Planning, what we do is each team will take a feature, they're on the board there, just behind there, we'll look at those in a minute, and that team will break that feature into user stories and try and allocate those user stories into sprints. So here we're going to try and plan 2 or 3 sprints, sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3. So at the end, by the time we've actually run through it all, what we should have is sprint 1, 2 and 3 filled with post-its which represent user stories, and possibly some other things as well. We might have some spikes in there, some maintenance stories, we might identify some risks that we need to deal with, and some development and infrastructure improvement stories. So there's various different types. So do you all know what I mean by user story? Marvellous. Do you know what a spike is? Yeah? So you stab through the heart of a vampire. Yes. A spike.
It's testing or some development that's done to improve the process.
Yeah, exactly. In the good old days, because we're computer programmers and Agile like to reinvent the same terminology over and over again. So spike is what we would have called in the good old days a user interface prototype or a technical prototype or something like that. Maintenance story is just something you've got to do on a regular basis. So defragment your hard disk. I'm showing my age now, aren't I? Yeah, sorry about that. Development and infrastructure improvement story. Implement a continuous integration server. That's a development and infrastructure improvement story. So there's different stuff, different things you can fill your sprints up with. So the idea is that so each team can take a feature, you can split it up into user stories and allocate those user stories to sprints, and then at the end of it you should be able to tell me as a team when you think you'll finish that feature. So if you can do all the user stories in sprint 1, you'll finish that feature in sprint 1. So the other interesting thing here is that we're going to assume today that all of the teams are equal. So you're not component teams, so we don't have the C# team, the database team, the Java team, and any of that. We're going to use feature teams. So that means that any of the features, the 10 features we've got, can be done by any of the teams. God, wouldn't life be nice if it was just like that? Wouldn't it be great? Reality, we tend to take a step back from there, but it would be great if we could work with feature teams and just encourage computer programmers to learn more than one bloody programming language. It's really not that hard. I never understand why people don't want to learn. It drives me insane. Good. So, yeah, that's basically what we'll do. So does everybody know how to do relative estimating using planning poker cards? Yeah, just somebody on each table, as long as they know how it works, that'll be fine. So in order to allocate user stories to sprints, you have to be able to estimate the user stories. Great, okay, so we'll jump into doing something practical now. So this is the blueprinter approach to Agile, as always. What I want you to do is, in fact, we need to get into teams. So how many have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's see if we can get into 6 teams. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's see how self-organising you are. Get yourself into 6 teams that are about evenly sized.
Are you doing the we're sitting here with a baseline? You're the baseline.
It's not 10 minutes in and it's falling apart already.
Don't get off your seat.
Alright. Are you all happy with your team? If you're not sure what team to join, just join the team with the ugliest people in. We've got 5, so well done. That's that's alright, we'll go with 5 teams. Clearly, you see, this is, I don't want to operate command and control, so clearly you guys, you clever guys, you know better than I do, so alright. Splendid. So what I want you to do now in your teams, well, let's start off right. So what I want you to do is appoint 2 people in your team. You can do whatever mechanism you like. I want you to appoint a Scrum Master and a Product Owner. The only thing I would say is, if you're normally a Scrum Master, don't be the Scrum Master. And if you're normally a Product Owner, don't be the Product Owner. Good opportunity to see how the other half live, right? So I'll give you about a minute and a half now to allocate yourselves a Product Owner and a Scrum Master. And when you've done it, we can do a blue Peter badge and just get a post-it and stick it here if you're a Scrum Master. Right, Scrum Master or Scrum Mistress, Product Owner as well.
Highest number distance is the first one. So I'm not really.
IT slides. I don't know what was on it.
Yeah, highest number you get to pick. You've been to this before?
I'm curious about what the Scrum Master role is. Is it a prize or a punishment?
Oh, good. Your first training. Scrum Master and Product
Is that what you usually do?
But yeah,
I'll do put it there.
It's not